Before day dawn, Jack Thatcher and the handful of searchers with him were tracked out in the cave by the twine clues they had strung behind them and informed of the great news. 3 days and nights of toil and hunger in the cave were not to be shaken off at once, as Tom and Becky soon discovered. They were bedridden all of Wednesday and Thursday, and seemed to grow more and more tired and worn all the time. Tom got about a little on Thursday, was downtown Friday, and nearly as whole as ever Saturday, but Becky did not leave her room until Sunday, and then she looked as if she had passed through a wasting illness. Tom learned of Huck's sickness and went to see him on Friday, but could not be admitted to the bedroom. Neither could he on Saturday or Sunday. He was admitted daily after that, but was warned to keep still about his adventure and introduce no exciting topic. The widow Douglas stayed by to see that he obeyed. At home, Tom learned of the Cardiff Hill event, also that the wrecked man's body had eventually been found in the river near the fair landing. He had been drowned while trying to escape, perhaps. About a fortnight after Tom's rescue from the cave, he started off to visit Huck, who had grown plenty strong enough now to hear exciting talk, and Tom had some that would interest him, he thought. Judge Thatcher's house was on Tom's way, and he stopped to see Becky. The judge and some friends set Tom to talking, and someone asked him ironically if he wouldn't like to go to the cave again. Tom said he thought he wouldn't mind it. The judge said, "Well, there are others just like you, Tom. I have not the least doubt, but we have taken care of that. Nobody will get lost in that cave anymore." "Why?" "Because I had its big door sheet with boiler iron 2 weeks ago, and triple locked, and I have got the keys." Tom turned as white as a sheet. "What's the matter, boy? Here, run somebody. Fetch a glass of water." The water was brought and thrown into Tom's face. "Ah, now you are all right. What was the matter with you, Tom?" "Oh, Judge, Injun Joe's in the cave." Chapter 33. Within a few minutes the news had spread, and a dozen skiff-loads of men were on their way to McDougal's cave, and the ferryboat, well filled with passengers, soon followed. Tom Sawyer was in the skiff that bore Judge Thatcher. When the cave door was unlocked, a sorrowful sight presented itself in the dim twilight of the place. Injun Joe lay stretched upon the ground, dead, with his face close to the crack of the door, as if his longing eyes had been fixed, to the latest moment, upon the light and the cheer of the free world outside. Tom was touched, for he knew by his own experience how this wretch had suffered. His pity was moved, but nevertheless he felt an abounding sense of relief and security, now which revealed to him in a degree which he had not fully appreciated before how vast a weight of dread had been lying upon him since the day he lifted his voice against this bloody-minded outcast. Injun Joe's bowie knife lay close by its blade, broken in two. The great foundation beam of the door had been chipped and hacked through with tedious labor. Useless labor, too, it was, for the native rock formed a seal outside it, and upon that stubborn material the knife had wrought no effect. The only damage done was to the knife itself. But if there had been no stony obstruction, there the labor would have been useless still. For if the beam had been wholly cut away, Injun Joe could not have squeezed his body under the door, and he knew it. Only hacked that place in order to be doing something, in order to employ his tortured faculties. Ordinarily, one could find half a dozen bits of candlestick around in the crevice of this vestibule, left there by tourists, but there were none now. The prisoner had searched them out and eaten them. He had also contrived to catch a few bats, and these also he had eaten, leaving only their claws. The poor unfortunate had starved to death. In one place, near at hand, stalagmite had been slowly growing up from the ground for ages, builded by the water drip from a stalactite overhead. The captive had broken off the stalagmite, and upon the stump had placed a stone, wherein he had scooped a shallow hollow to catch the precious drop that fell once in every 3 minutes, with the dreary regularity of a clock tick. That drop was falling when the pyramids were new, when Troy fell, when the foundations of Rome were laid, when Christ was crucified, when the conqueror created the British Empire, when Columbus sailed, when the massacre at Lexington was news. It is falling now. It will still be falling when all these things shall have sunk down the afternoon of history and the twilight of tradition, and been swallowed up in the thick night of oblivion. Has everything a purpose and a mission? Did this drop fall patiently during 5,000 years to be ready for this fleeting human insect's need? And has it another important object to accomplish 10,000 years to come? No matter. It is many and many a year since the hapless half-breed scooped out the stone to catch the priceless drops, but to this day the tourist stares longest at that pathetic stone and that slow-dropping water when he comes to see the wonders of MacDougall's cave. Injun Joe's cup stands first in the list of the cavern's marvel. Even Aladdin's palace cannot rival it. Injun Joe was buried near the mouth of the cave, and people flocked there in boats and wagons from the towns and from all the farms and hamlets for 7 miles around. They brought their children and all sorts of provisions, and confessed that they had almost as satisfactory a time at the funeral as they could have at the hanging. This funeral stopped the further growth of one thing: the petition to the governor for Injun Joe's pardon. The petition had been largely signed, many tearful and eloquent meetings had been held, and a committee of sappy women been appointed to go in deep mourning and wail around the governor, and implore him to be a merciful ass and trample his duty underfoot. Injun Joe was believed to have killed 5 citizens of the village, but what of that? If he had been Satan, there would have been plenty of weaklings ready to scribble their names to a pardon petition, and drip a tear on it from their permanently impaired and leaky waterworks. The morning after the funeral, Tom took Huck to a private place to have an important talk. Huck had learned all about Tom's adventure from the Welshman and the widow Douglas by this time, but Tom said he reckoned there was one thing they had not told him. That thing was what he wanted to talk about now. Huck's face saddened. He said, I know what it is. You got into number 2 and never found anything but whiskey. Nobody told me it was you, but I just know it must be a been you, soon as I heard about that whiskey business. And I know you hadn't got the money because you got at me some way or other and told me even if you was mom to everybody else. Tom, some things always told me we never get half of that swag. Why, Huck? I never told on that tavern keeper. You know his tavern was alright the Saturday I went to the picnic. Don't you remember you was the watch there that night? Oh, yes. Why? It seems about a year ago. It was that very night that I followed Injun Joe to the Withers. You followed him? Yes, but you keep mum. I reckon Injun Joe's left friends behind him. And I don't want them soaring on me and doing me mean tricks. If it hadn't been for me, he would be a down in tax as now, all right. Then Huck told his entire adventure in confidence to Tom, who had only heard of the Welshman's part of it before. Well, said Huck, presently coming back to the main question. Whoever nipped the whiskey in number 2 nipped the money too, I reckon. Anyways, it's a gunner for us, Tom. Huck, that money wasn't ever in number 2. What? Huck searched his comrade's face keenly. Tom, have you got on the track of that money again? Huck, it's in the cave. Huck's eye blazed. Say it again, Tom. The money is in the cave. Tom, is it fun or earnest? Earnest, Huck. Just as earnest as ever I was in my life. Will you go in there with me and help get it out? I bet I will. I will, if it is where we can blaze our way to it and not get lost. Huck, we can do that without the least little bit of trouble in the world. Good as wheat. What makes you think the money is... Huck, you just wait till we get in there. If you don't find, I will agree to give you my drum and everything I have got in the world. I will, by jinx. Alright, it's a whiz. When do you say? Right now, if you say it. Are you strong enough? Is it far in the cave? I've been on my pins a little, 3 or 4 days. But now I cannot walk more than a mile. Tom, least I don't think I could. It's about 5 miles into there, the way anybody but me would go, Huck. But there is a mighty shortcut that they don't anybody but me know about. I will take you right to it in a skiff. I will float the skiff down there, and I will pull it back again all by myself. You needn't ever turn your hand over. Let's start right off, Tom. All right, we want some bread and meat, and our pipes, and a little bag or 2, and 2 or 3 kite strings, and some of these newfangled things they call Lucifer matches. I tell you, many is the time I wish I had some when I was in there before. A cheerful afternoon, the boys borrowed a small skiff from a citizen who was absent, and got underway at once. When they were several miles below Cave Hollow, Tom said, "Now you see this bluff here looks all alike all the way down from the cave hollow. No houses, no woodyards, bushes all alike. But do you see that white place up yonder where there's been a landslide? Well, that's one of my marks. We will get ashore now." And they landed. "Now, Huck, where we are standing, you could touch that hole I got out of with a fishing pole. See if you can find it." Huck searched all the place about and found nothing. Tom proudly marched into a thick clump of smash bushes and said, "Here you are. Look at it, Huck. It is the snuggest hole in this country. You just keep mum about it." All along I have been wanting to be a robber, but I knew I would got to have a thing like this, and where to run across it was the border. We have got it now, and we will keep it quiet. Only we will let Joe Harper and Ben Rogers in, because of course there's got to be a gang, or else there wouldn't be any style about it. Tom Sawyer's gang. It sounds splendid, don't it, Huck? Well, it just does, Tom. And who will we rob? Oh, most anybody. Waylay people. That's mostly the way. And kill them? No, not always. Hide them in the cave till they raise a ransom. What's a ransom? Money. You make them raise all they can, often their friends, and after you have kept them a year, if it is not raised, then you kill them. That's the general way. Only you don't kill the woman. You shut up the woman, but you don't kill them. They are always beautiful and rich, and awful scared. You take their watches and things, but you always take your hat off and talk polite. They are not anybody as polite as robbers. You will see that in any book. Well, the women get to loving you, and after they have been in the cave a week or 2 weeks, they stop crying, and after that you couldn't get them to leave. If you drove them out, they would turn right around and come back. It's so in all the books. Why? It's real bully, Tom. I believe it's better to be a pirate. Yes, it is better in some ways, because it is close to home and circuses and all that. By this time, everything was ready, and the boys entered the hall, Tom in the lead. They toiled their way to the farther end of the tunnel, then made their spliced kite strings fast and moved on. A few steps brought them to the spring, and Tom felt a shudder quiver all through him. He showed Huck the fragment of candlewick perched on a lump of clay against the wall, and described how he and Becky had watched the flames struggle and expire. The boys began to quiet down the whispers now, for the stillness and gloom of the place oppressed their spirits. They went on, and presently entered and followed Tom's other corridor until they reached the jumping off place. The candles revealed the fact that it was not really a precipice, but only a steep clay hill 20 or 30 feet high. Tom whispered, "Now, I will show you something, Huck." He held his candle aloft and said, "Look as far around the corner as you can. Do you see that? They're done with candle smoke. Tom, it's a cross. Now, where's your number 2? Under the cross. Hey, right yonder's where I saw Injun Joe poke up his candle, Huck." Huck stared at the mystic sign a while, and then said with a shaky voice, "Tom, let's get out of here." "What? And leave the treasure?" "Yes, leave it. Injun Joe's ghost is round about there, certain." "No, it is not, Huck. It is not. It was the place where he died, 5 miles from here." "No, Tom, it wouldn't. It would hang round the money. I know the ways of ghosts, and so do you." Tom began to fear that Huck was right. Misgivings gathered in his mind, but presently an idea occurred to him. "Look here, Huck, what fools we are making of ourselves. Injun Joe's ghost is not going to come around where there's a cross." The point was well taken. It had its effect. "Tom, I didn't think of that. But that's so. It is luck for us, that cross is. I reckon we will climb down there and have a hunt for that box." Tom went first, cutting rude steps in the clay hill as he descended. Huck followed. 4 avenues opened out of the small cavern which the great rock stood in. The boys examined 3 of them with no result. They found a small recess in the one nearest the base of the rock, with a pelt of blankets spread down in it, also an old suspender, some bacon rind, and the well-gnawed bones of 2 or 3 fowls. But there was no money box. The lads searched and researched this place, but in vain. Tom said, he said, "Under the cross." "Well, this comes nearest to being under the cross. It can't be under the rock itself, because that sets salt on the ground." They searched everywhere once more, and then sat down discouraged. Huck could suggest nothing. By and by, Tom said, "Look here, Huck. There's footprints and some candle grease on the clay about one side of this rock, but not on the other sides. Now, what is that for?" "I bet you the money is under the rock. I'm going to dig in the clay." "That is not no bad notion, Tom," said Huck with animation. Tom's real Barlow was out at once, and he had not dug 4 inches before he struck wood. "Hey, Huck, you hear that?" Huck began to dig and scratch now. Some boards were soon uncovered and removed. They had concealed a natural chasm which led under the rock. Tom got into this and held his candle as far under the rock as he could. He proposed to explore. He stooped and passed under. The narrow way descended gradually. He followed its winding course, first to the right, then to the left, Huck at his heels. Tom turned a short curve, by and by, and exclaimed, "My goodness, Huck! Look here!" It was the treasure box, sure enough, occupying a snug little cavern, along with an empty powder keg, a couple of guns in leather cases, 2 or 3 pairs of old moccasins, a leather belt, and some other rubbish well soaked with the water drip. "Got it at last," said Huck, plowing among the tarnished coins with his hand. "My, but we are rich, Tom." "Huck, I always reckoned we would get it. It is just too good to believe, but we have got it, sure. Say, let's not fool around here. Let's snake it out. Let me see if I can lift the box." It weighed about 50 pounds. Tom could lift it, after an awkward fashion, but couldn't carry it conveniently. "I thought so," he said. They carried it like it was heavy, that day, at the Hound House. I noticed that. I reckon I was right to think of fetching the little bags along. The money was soon in the bags, and the boys took it up to the crossrock. "Now, let's fetch the guns and things," said Huck. "No, Huck, leave them there. They are just the tricks to have when we go robbing. We will keep them there, all the time. And we will hold our orgies there too. It's an awful snug place for orgies." "What orgies?" "I don't know, but robbers always have orgies. And of course, we have got to have them too." "Come along, Huck. We have been in here a long time. It's getting late, I reckon. I'm hungry too. We will eat and smoke when we get to the skiff." They presently emerged into the clump of sumac bushes, looked well out, found the coast clear, and were soon lunching and smoking in the skiff. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, they pushed out and got under way. Tom skimmed up the shore through the long twilight, chatting cheerily with Huck, and landed shortly after dark. "Now, Huck," said Tom, "we will hide the money in the loft of the widow's woodshed, and I will come up in the morning, and we will count it and divide, and then we will hunt up a place out in the woods for it, where it will be safe. Just you lay quiet here and watch the stuff till I run and hook Benny Taylor's little wagon. I won't be gone a minute." He disappeared, and presently returned with the wagon, put the 2 small sacks into it, threw some old rags on top of them, and started off, dragging his cargo behind them. When the boys reached the Welshman's house, they stopped to rest. Just as they were about to move on, the Welshman stepped out and said, "Hello, who is that?"